Hi guys, this is Sajna Binil and welcome to the Business Analysis Guide. This is part 4 of our illustration series How to Gather Requirements. In my last video, I had explained you how to gather requirements using the interview technique. In this video, I will discuss how to gather requirements using the workshop technique. So, let's get started. So, what exactly are workshops? Well, a workshop is a structured and facilitated meeting in which you invite a selected group of stakeholders. So, we'll see how to conduct a workshop. Before a workshop, ensure that you have shared the agenda and itinerary with all the participants. Now, the agenda and itinerary should go to the participants at least a week in advance before the workshop. You know, like I've stressed in my previous video, agenda nails down the scope of the meeting and gives enough clarity to everyone on the goal of the meeting. So it is very much important. And again, itinerary is very important for a workshop because you might be planning this workshop for a couple of days. So the participants would like to know what topics will be discussed in the first half, what will be discussed in the second half, how many breaks will be there in the workshop, so that they can plan their day accordingly. So it is very important for us to give them clarity on how the days in the workshop are actually planned. If you're planning to give any reference materials or handouts to the participants, you're planning some games and activities in the workshop, then ensure that you send these reference materials to the participants again a week in advance prior to the workshop, so that they get adequate time to go through these reference materials and prepare themselves for the workshop. Facilitator. Ensure that you identify a facilitator couple of days ahead of the workshop. Either you as a BA can act as a facilitator or any of the senior stakeholder. But the role of a facilitator is very important in a workshop because we have a large number of stakeholders in a workshop, and if you don't facilitate the meeting appropriately, you'll see that the participants lose interest in the workshop and start browsing the internet, checking their emails, engaging in side conversations. So you would like to avoid all of that, right? So ensure that you identify a person who can facilitate the meeting so that you can avoid these issues. Now, on the day of the workshop, begin the meeting by discussing the agenda of the workshop and laying down some ground rules. Now, why are ground rules important? Ground rules are very vital for a workshop because here again we are dealing with a large number of stakeholders. So if we do not lay down the ground rules, the stakeholders will take the meetings very casually and engage in side conversations and they will end up doing their own work and so on. So a couple of examples of ground rules that you can lay down for the workshop can be, please arrive on time for the workshop. Do not engage in side conversations. Do not deviate from the main topic of the workshop, and do not have lengthy conversations and so on. So you can decide your own ground rules based on the goal of the workshop and discuss accordingly with the participants. Secondly, effective facilitation of a workshop is very important because only a facilitator can steer the meeting in the right direction. So as a facilitator, you need to ensure that you get active participation from all the stakeholders in the workshop. So you might see in a workshop that there might be a group of stakeholders who are very active and vocal and discussing their concerns, but there might be another group who is very passive and not engaging in discussion. So you have to ensure that you involve all the stakeholders and get enough participation from everyone so that your workshop is successful. Another important point is do not allow people to deviate from the main topic of the workshop, otherwise your workshop becomes unsuccessful. So you can devise small strategies which can prevent this from happening. Like in our workshops, what we used to do is whenever somebody deviated from the main topic or exceeded a particular time limit for a topic, we used to call it a noise, and we used to write it on the whiteboard as noise, so that the appropriate stakeholder understands that he needs to stop here. So you can devise your own strategy, to control that people behavior. Last point that you need to ensure is that you note down important points which are discussed as soon as they are discussed, so that you do not forget and it is visible for everyone. So if anybody disagrees on the points, they can raise their concern. So note down those important points on a whiteboard which is visible to everyone and which can trigger further discussions. Now, at the end of the workshop, it is your duty to summarize the action items, summarize the points of discussion, and collect feedback from all the participants. Collecting feedback is very, very important, so that you can plan the second day of the workshop appropriately. So, your feedback will serve as an input for the day 2 of the workshop. If participants have not liked your day 1 of the workshop, they might leave a feedback. You can take that as an input and improvise your day 2 of the workshop. So ensure that you collect enough feedback. Now, what are the common mistakes that BAs make while conducting workshops? Let's look at it. So some of the mistakes that I have seen is they end up inviting incorrect audience. So either the size of the audience is not correct, or the profile of the audience is not correct. So there might be two ways at looking at this. So always an appropriate size for a workshop that I feel is having around 20 to 25 participants, not more than that. That's a max limit I'm suggesting. So if you have a very huge set of people in a workshop, it becomes a little difficult for you to control that meeting. Also, with respect to the audience profile, ensure that you have subject matter experts in your workshop who can steer the meeting in the right direction. So if you're inviting only the ground level staff and no decision makers, again, your workshop will not be fruitful. Second big mistake is improper facilitation. So if you have not facilitated your workshop properly, you'll see that the workshop is not successful. It will not bear the results. So it is very important for you to engage all the participants and ensure that nobody deviates from the main topic of the workshop. So that the goal of the workshop is addressed. A third big mistake is you engage in irrelevant questions and start addressing irrelevant topics which are out of scope of your workshop. So you might be having a broad level of questions which might trigger a conversation in the workshop. So the questions that you identify should be the right kind of questions and not something which are out of scope of the actual discussion. So have a good, strong question list handy before your workshop, which can trigger a conversation with all the stakeholders. So that's very, very important. So lastly, what is a workshop used for? Well, a workshop can be used in several scenarios. It can be used for gathering requirements. It can be used for refining and validating requirements. It can be used for prioritizing requirements and reviewing requirements. Also to discuss some problem areas or issues or concerns, you can use a workshop. So the usage of a workshop is multifold. So when should it be actually used? When should a workshop technique be used? Workshop technique can be used for a situation where you need a quick turnaround from your stakeholders, and the information that you require from the stakeholders are coming from multiple sources. So there are multiple sources of information and you need a quick turnaround. So in that case, workshop technique is a very effective method. So when you are having large number of stakeholders, you naturally cannot have a one-on-one meeting with them and engage in the interview technique, right? So workshop becomes very effective in those scenarios. So that's all for today. See you next week with my next video, how to gather requirements using the mind mapping technique. So if you like this video, drop us a like, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notification bell. Thank you very much.